Well, hello and welcome to Threads, episode number 14. I'm Ben Crocker. I'm here tonight with Jason Thierry.
Hello.
And our friend, who I should have asked for his last name, how to pronounce it right, David
Tiesma.
Very good.
Was that right?
Nailed it.
We said it at the same time, too.
We do that a lot.
You may notice that. I mean, we are like thinking the same things. We had one time where it was like 3 words in a row, like exclamations. I'm like, oh boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Like we have the same brain or something.
Well, no.
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't have the same brain.
Indeed. Well, it is Christmas time, so we just wanted to start by giving you warm wishes for the holiday season, and hope you're enjoying time with family and taking some time not only to listen to our podcast, but also just to reflect on the reason for the season, and just trust that you're enjoying life at this point. Tonight we are going to switch up the format a little bit, and Jason, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, this will not be our last episode for the year. We're recording again after you leave too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we're pulling an all nighter. No.
Nice.
No, it's nice. You can record and then you just can edit it later. You just like save it and just go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, he's got to drive home, but
right.
I just go to bed. But yeah, so we're gonna record this one and then we'll have one more episode for the end of the year, and then we'll be off till 2019. So this one is just gonna be kind of a looser. Not laid back, but just, well, it's probably going to be, it's looser from our normal format.
Yes.
It's probably going to be deeper than what you guys are typically used to hearing. But no, I'm excited about that. And David, why don't you share a little bit of your background? And yeah, we'd like to chat about it.
Absolutely. I have been a children's pastor. I have been a children's and youth pastor. I've been a financial advisor. I've been a pest control technician. I've been a garbage man. I serve legal papers. Just a lot of different things that I've done.
What pest control? Like in Grand Rapids here?
Yeah, Master Pest Control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller one. I don't even know if it's still around. That was
It
back in
is.
Oh, really? You know that?
Yeah. Well, I know because they took advantage of my aunt. Nothing. I mean,
no.
yeah, they like signed her into this contract, and then she said I didn't want it, and they're like, "Well, you still have to pay this termination," and it was a long thing. And she's like a multimillionaire, so they were going after for like $150. But out of the principal, she's like, I don't even need credit. You can take me to the credit bureau. I'm not paying this $150. So,
Nice. Oh, sorry to hear that.
no, yeah, I didn't. No. I think they're bigger. So it must have been back in the day that you did it.
Oh gosh, 91.
Yeah, so I think they're more of a franchise, like a True Green now.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
did not know that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but that was a
You
long
said
time ago.
that they took advantage of your aunt. I was kind of thinking, well, isn't that their job? Like, aunt inside.
Oh,
Oh.
see what he did there?
Huge dad joker over there. Like he's made
they're always clicking.
you made my brain into, because I do them sometime, and my daughter's like, really, Dad? So continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
we're
okay.
we're big tangenters, so if we kind of go off in a random thing, that's just kind of what we do. So.
Yeah. My wife's over there nodding at me like, yes, he is too. So
Okay,
not
good.
a problem. But the ant one, I'm a little disappointed I didn't catch that right away.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I work at Chase Bank right now. I'm a banker, and I also serve legal papers on the side. But yeah, I spent a few years as a pastor in the Assemblies of God Church, which is a real big church in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay.
And then I'm from Jenison, but I moved to Des Moines, moved my family out there in the year 2000. And then I was there about a year and a half, and then I had to resign, which we can touch on that later if you want to.
Yeah.
And then I got in the financial world with Principal Financial Group, and then we moved from Iowa to Flushing, Michigan by Flint. And if you're thinking about moving to Flint,
Dude,
don't.
you're it's gonna blow your mind.
What's going on?
How long did you live in Flushing?
We moved to Montrose first for about a year.
Okay.
And then I was a youth pastor in children's at a church there. I lasted for a year, resigned.
Okay.
And then we moved to Flushing, and then we were there probably another 4.5 years.
Okay. My wife is from Flushing.
Really?
My mother-in-law was an art teacher for 30 years in the Flushing schools.
Oh, really? That's where
Yeah.
my oldest daughter graduated from Flushing High School.
Yeah, her last name is Leithley. Sue lethally.
I bet my daughter Molly knows her.
I bet she does. Like, depending
Small
on,
world.
I know. No one knows about Flushing. I'll tell people,
Yeah.
like, my wife's from the east side, a suburb of Flint, and they're like, oh, okay. And they're like, where? I'm like, well, I'll tell you, it's Flushing. And they're like, yeah, I never heard of it. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I said a suburb of Flint.
Yeah, that's exactly. You go to everyone's heard of Flint, not for good reasons.
Yeah. No, that's so weird. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they, my father-in-law passed in 13, but yeah, they were there for 20 years and then sold it and moved up to the cabin. But that's so funny.
Yeah, so Flushing's a nice little town.
Yes.
Flushing's great. Flint, not so much.
No.
We know about that.
Yeah.
And I got divorced when I was out in Flint back in 2009. And then in 2011, I moved back here to Grand Rapids.
Okay.
And I started with Chase actually back in 2008.
Okay.
So I've been there about 11 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Just to let you know, the electric in this house is super old. So if you get some flickers, I promise it's not God being like, what's up?
Good to know.
I have to tell
Appreciate
people that because I feel like it's such a distraction for me. I mean, I'm used to it, but I'm like, I need to get an electrician here and find out why they flicker.
Yeah, we just had to have one out too. So.
Every time someone comes out, it's $150.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even if they don't even do any work.
Oh, honey, we got to pay the electrician just as a reminder. We haven't done that yet. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
So you have had a podcast, and what was that podcast about?
It was called An Open Letter. And basically what we were trying to do is we were trying to have conversations that the church was either not having at all or wasn't having well.
Okay. Was that developed because of the reason that you resigned or involvement in the church? Is that, when you were out? Because obviously you recorded after you were out of ministry.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just curious if that sparked the interest for the podcast at all.
Partially it has, or it did. It's not currently running. We are taking a hiatus, hopefully to bring it back before sometime in 2019. And I'll have you guys on.
Okay.
How fun will that be?
Yeah,
Right?
we can
We'll swap.
advertise on each other's podcasts.
Absolutely.
That's how a lot of people gain ground. So
Well, and we've had another podcast host, and he's really cool on the Kingdom of God think tank page, Jonathan Butrin.
Oh,
He has
I went to college with John.
Do you? And we had him
did.
on the podcast for
Oh,
his,
that's
the
awesome.
cinema faith thing that he
Yeah.
does. Yeah, he was great.
He's incredible.
Very, very smart guy.
Yes.
So anyway, what happened is my friend of mine, I used to be very, very active on Facebook. I've really backed that off, and I would just really try to make people think. And I tried to ask challenging questions out there, and sometimes that made people angry. But my friend Chad was listening or, watching the Facebook post, and he came up to me a few years ago and he said, dude, you should really have a podcast. And I'm like, that's great. I don't even know how I would do
what's a
that.
podcast?
Yeah, how do you do that?
I knew what one was,
okay.
to my credit there.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I work at this radio station and we can use their facilities.
Which is awesome.
It really was.
Because we've had a lot of growing pains with all this equipment. I mean, it has been some painful times of just, it's tough. I mean, we've got it figured out. I mean, we're not perfect, but now the next step is upgrading equipment
And it's so expensive.
Yeah, it is. This basic setup probably was less than $500, but you could spend that on 2 mics if you wanted to.
Yeah. So we started the podcast and we did it for a couple of years, and we probably have about around 30 episodes out there.
Okay. Cool.
It was a good time.
Yeah, we enjoy it. We enjoy it. Anything else, Ben, you want to ask just before we dive in?
So the churches that you worked at, both were Assemblies of God?
No, the first
So just
one
the
was.
first? Okay.
Right. Second was a non-denom church.
Okay.
And while we were there, they became affiliated, or I'm not exactly sure how it works, with the Resurrection Life
Oh, sure.
church group.
That's where I grew up, sort of.
Really? Interesting. I grew up at First Assembly.
He's got see, that's what I was talking about. First, it's called Grand Rapids First now.
Yeah.
But my relatives went there too. So
Who are your relatives?
Nelson, Connie, and Jerry Nelson,
yeah.
and then
Jerry Nelson goes to my church. Jerry Nelson Jr.
Junior does.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then they have Todd, who's a pastor in Tennessee, and Chad, who's a pastor in Detroit.
I know all those guys.
Yeah, Jerry Senior passed about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
He got lung cancer. He worked for UPS and he got lung cancer. I don't know if I told you this, but he he was in super management.
Yeah.
In those boardrooms, they used to smoke in them.
Oh,
and it was secondhand smoke. I mean, he never smoked a cigarette in his life.
Right. No.
But I mean, he was more in danger not having a filter on the end of that thing, and that's how he got lung cancer. I mean, doesn't that suck?
It really does, because I know that his son Jerry. I mean, all of his sons, but I've known Jerry, Jerry Jr. for 30 years.
Yeah.
And he just loved his dad. His dad was such a good guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not super close with that side. There's a long history. Nothing wrong with them, but with my mom preventing some things. So,
oh wow.
But yeah,
you want to talk about that?
Not on this podcast. My wife would love me to, but at this point, we're not there yet.
No,
so.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy all these connections. Like
I know
my relatives, and then Justin and Carol Thierry.
I don't know them.
Yeah, they passed. I mean, they were my grandparents, so they passed. Gosh, I'm terrible. My grandma passed in 2004, so it was, and my grandpa had passed before that, so it was like,
okay,
yeah. But they went to that church forever. So,
gotcha. Yeah.
So you said Ben brought this up earlier, the Assembly of God. I didn't know this was a denomination. Can you explain what's different? Because I go to Alive Ministries in Jenison.
Yeah.
So, and they're all non-denom. They're all off the Christian Reform.
Sure.
I went to Evergreen for 10 years in Hudsonville.
Yep.
And
I
then
was in a play there at Evergreen.
Which one?
Annie?
Just recently?
Well,
like
4 or 5 years ago.
So I've done plays there too.
Have you really?
I didn't do Annie.
I was the guy. I had a solo. That was a mistake for them to do.
imagine.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my
so you know Jody Kohlmeyer then?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
In fact, Carol helped with another play, Scarlet
This is like
Pimpernel.
Dutch bingo.
I feel like
I know.
Dutch bingo.
Who's winning? I don't know.
I don't know. I think
We
we're
all win.
I think we're tied.
Yeah, seriously.
So she helped with a French accent for the Scarlet Pimpernel.
Oh, I was in the Scarlet Pimpernel.
She helped people have the French accent.
I was just a soldier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a big beard. Well, Jody wanted me to shave it, and I said,
No.
"Well, it's shaved now because of UPS. That's another story, but
Really?
they don't allow beards." But
I'd be in trouble.
yeah, they allowed mustaches, but I'm not gonna sport the mustache. But
No, it's not a good look anymore.
no, it's not. It is if you're in this. I mean, no offense, your age. Because I mean, you're
What does
probably
that
what?
mean?
How
You're
old do you think I am, yo?
I'm thinking like mid 50s.
51.
Okay.
I got a senior discount at the movie theater the other day.
Oh,
The guy,
really?
dude is like, "Hey, how old are you, man?" I'm like, what?
It's the gray in the beard. I have a lot of gray in my beard too. And when I shaved, everyone's like, you look 10 years, because I'm 42. You look 10 years younger. I'm like, holy crap.
I took the discount though.
Yeah, I would too.
Even though I
No
was
kidding.
insulted, but
Yeah.
Seriously.
So where were we at?
I was just talking about.
I wanted the Assembly of God.
oh,
Is that okay?
definition.
Yeah,
Definition?
go for it.
Yeah.
So the Assemblies of God would not consider themselves a denomination, or at least when I was a pastor with them back in 2000, they were not a denomination, but they really were.
Yeah.
They just didn't like that word.
So
more of a
was it
network.
okay? Was it based off CRC or Reformed?
Oh
or,
no,
I
no,
mean,
it's Pentecostal.
Pentecostal.
Yeah,
Okay.
charismatic light.
Okay.
We feel
Holy
well.
rollers.
A little bit, not as much. You don't have the chandelier swinging as much. There is some rolling.
Yes.
I came from Ridgewood and Jenison to Friendship Chapel to Evergreen to Alive. And when I went to my grandma's church, I was a little freaked out. It was a little,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, it's like me when I freak out and go to Catholic church. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because everyone does all these rituals and I'm just sitting there like,
You know, it's even weirder.
what's up?
You know, it's even weirder. Plymouth Brethren.
Never heard of it.
That's where my wife went to. She's glaring at me. It's not. Guess where I went to church as a little boy?
Where?
Ridgewood.
Oh, jeez.
Not
Wow.
even kidding. Not even
crazy.
kidding.
Yeah, we were there probably 4 or 5 years and then we switched to Friendship for a long time.
How old are you?
I'm 42.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I spoke at Friendship Chapel when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
It's not even a church anymore.
Really?
They dissolved.
They
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
We've got some of their members came to Solomon's Porch, which is
Okay.
where I go now.
Yeah.
Okay.
With Chuck.
Chuck
I
Swanson.
love the Chuck.
Yeah,
He was
he's
at
a good
Cornerstone
guy.
when
One
I
of-
went there.
One of my best friends right now.
That's awesome.
I feel like we should have gone to dinner first and talked about all this.
the
and then,
listeners are like, I don't care.
yeah, and it's like,
moving
really,
on.
who cares? You're all live in the same area. It's a small world.
No kidding.
Shocking.
Although we had a Flushing connection, so that's
True.
not in the same area.
That is pretty
Absolutely.
interesting. Yeah. Well, my background, I mentioned that I sort of grew up at Res Life.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, for whatever reason, and we've talked about maybe even covering this on the show.
We've grazed it, but I
Yeah.
still want to know, and I don't know if you know.
I haven't really
Ask
found
them.
out, but
You need to ask
I
them.
need to. So when I was a child, I was born into the Christian Reformed Church. And like good Christian Reformed parents, my parents had me baptized as an infant. And from there, we went to, made a huge jump in theology and went to Res Life in Granville. So we went from CRC to Charismatic. And this was back in the day when they were a little bit more Pentecostal than they are non-denominational.
Right.
So during that time, there would be pastors and speakers, evangelists, whoever that would, my parents would always bring me up to the front for prayer because I had a heart condition at the time
Okay.
and was in need of surgery. And so these guys, instead of praying for healing, would pray over my future and the ministry that I would do and the working with young people. And so I always grew up with kind of like this pressure of I've got to follow in those plans that these guys kept talking about at that church. Well, I had heart surgery. It took care of the issue and life went on. But soon after the heart surgery, we made another switch in churches and ended up at a Baptist church. So
See what I mean? That's why I want to know the story. That's
Wow.
quite the flip flop.
So we went CRC to Charismatic to Baptist. And now I'm a Wesleyan. So
I went from CRC to Charismatic in
Okay.
the middle 70s. My mom got baptized in the Holy Spirit, and we were going to Ridgewood. And then the next week, we went to Maranatha, which was full out Charismatic, and that is as out there as you can get.
Yeah.
As far as Pentecostal and Charismatic is, they were all out there dancing and everything. Hymnals to people dancing in the aisles, literally.
that's something.
Yeah. So what age were they praying over that you were having that heart issue?
Yeah, I was, I believe, 7. And what's interesting is my mom gave me a notebook, a journal of sorts, that she and my dad wrote in when I was having the heart surgery and when I was in the hospital. So I didn't even know this notebook existed.
What's super weird is why are they talking about your future at age 7, and why aren't they praying about your heart issue? Why do they? And that's super bizarre.
They felt it was prophecy, and
Yeah, that's a thing.
I mean, I'm not poo-pooing it 100%, but
But there's a percentage there. There is poo-pooing happening there.
there's
absolutely.
quite a bit.
I-
I'm not going to give the numbers, but
I grew up, in my case, I grew up thinking that I had to do that because that's what those men spoke over my life.
yeah.
And so for much of my life, my faith was not this is what I'm doing because I love the Lord and I want to grow in my faith. My faith was more, this has been spoken over my life, so therefore I must do this. It was almost
don't you want to
robotic.
know what they spoke?
Yeah. I want to know what
wanna
this.
know.
I want to know what the story is, and
Yeah,
we may never
me
know.
too.
If Ben has to physically go to them and ask, and
I
that
do.
could be super uncomfortable for him. So,
Yeah.
but I'll work on him.
Good plan.
But
So yeah, that's kind of my background. So we both have been in ministry. I was a youth pastor out in Oregon at 2 churches.
Oh, wow.
And the first church was amazing. I wish I was still there. Like the people to this day are just phenomenal. The only reason that position came to an end is because the church was supported by community members who worked in the lumber industry. And back when the economy tanked in 2008, a lot of the federal contracts for the timber were cut. And so,
Pardon the pun.
yeah, right? I didn't even try on that.
I know.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
So funding is cut. So a good chunk of people in our church, their paychecks just shrank, which then in turn means there's less money coming into the church.
wow.
And senior pastor had moved on. So they were still paying my full salary, but they couldn't afford to bring on a senior pastor. And I'm just this 20-something kid from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And, you know, I went to the board and I just said, I love the people here. I love the youth. This has been a great spot to start in ministry. But I can't provide what the church needs in senior leadership. That's not me. So I kind of asked for their blessing to move on and find something else. And moved north to Portland, Oregon, and ended up in a church that was a horrible fit. So it was like trying to put a square peg in a circle hole. No matter how many times you try to push and finagle it, you can't get it in. So very much like that. And it was after that experience that I really just started asking some big questions of, why am I doing this? Sure, my first experience was good, but why is this a thing for me? So it started a season of a lot of big questions. So
in my background, I'm a semi-regular attender. There, done.
yeah,
That's my background.
that's it.
Dang.
I mean, other than like my parents forced me to go to church, and then when I left, when I got out of high school or left the house, I didn't go for like 6 years, just because they forced it down your throat. Of course, you're not going to do it when someone forces it,
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but now I'm back, and I love it. So I don't go as much as I should, because I work till 3 a.m. and I make the excuse that I'm tired and I don't want to go. But yeah.
Where do you go now?
Alive Ministries.
That's right. I've been by there. Yeah.
They're in a weird building.
Chicago Drive.
Yeah, like it's
Right.
you know where the old Hot Now is?
Yeah.
Or was the old Hot
yeah.
Now? It's the building right behind there by Bob's Butcher Block.
That's
and,
right. That's where I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So they're actually starting a Granville plant.
Wow.
Yeah. The pastor there, though, I mean, they asked me to be part of it just because I guess I'm from Granville. And I don't know if I want to do it. I love the pastor there. Like, he's amazing. I don't want to leave him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been Evergreen. Unfortunately, the pastor there is super like heady, like theological, or I can't say
Theological.
Thank you.
That word.
And it's just you can't connect with them. And my wife, and I was involved with the church, like with production and stuff like that, and the plays. So I felt hard to just pull away.
Yeah.
And finally, I'm just like, my wife's getting nothing out of this. I'm like, we got to find something else. So
That makes sense.
yeah, yep. So. All right, we're just going to throw a couple of questions at you. I mean, they're not all super deep. Some of them are. If you don't have answers to them, they're fine. It can be anything. So,
Okay.
I mean, you've seen the list a little bit, but
Yeah.
one of the things with the Assembly of God, like I said, it's the raise the hands and do the dance and everything. What is the craziest thing you ever seen at church where you're like, okay, this might be too far?
Well, there was a time we had revival happening in the church, and we went to Friday night services.
Okay.
And it's interesting because when you are trying to let the Spirit flow is the term that was used, people have a tendency to take that and run a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And there were prayer meetings, and I did not attend these, but I know that it was happening where people would gather for prayer. They would speak in tongues, of course. I don't think that's too far, but they would start barking like dogs. There would be barking would happen because they felt that's where the Spirit was leading them to make animal noises. And that felt like, could God do that? Of course, but why? Not everything God does needs to make sense to me.
Right.
Another time I had a guy. So one of the big things in a charismatic circle, Pentecostal, you may or may not know.
No,
this,
I probably don't.
is being slain in the Spirit. Right? Someone prays for you, they touch you, they have oil, and you fall over. Have you seen this?
It's like the Benny Hinn thing.
Well, I've seen it on like videos and stuff, but I've never seen it in person.
I have been slain in the Spirit. And I would say there are times that I would. It's hard for me to quantify it now. I know I felt something. Was it the whole group stimulus and expectation and things like that? Yeah, maybe. But there was one time as evangelist, I was in the prayer line because I was a good Christian. I'd always go to the prayer line, and the guy was praying for me, the evangelist that was there speaking, and he had his hand on my head, and I wasn't going to fake it. He pushed me over.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Brother pushed me over. And there's always catchers behind them, and they catch you, and then they lay you down.
There's catchers.
Yeah.
You got to sign up and everything. There's classes and stuff.
Oh, it's like a volunteer position.
Yeah, and then you're standing behind someone who's like big.
Yeah.
Like maybe they're like 6'5",
Yeah,
and
and
plays
you're
football. You're like,
I'm going to need some help over here.
Jesus, you're going to have to catch him because I can't do it.
Right. Interesting.
It's almost like the trust fall.
It kind of is in a spiritual way.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions about that. Like the tongue thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've obviously been moved by the Holy Spirit. I mean, even last Sunday, and maybe it was more the pastor choking up, but it was like a pretty emotional at the end, and he was choking up about something, and you just feel like that rush of emotion. Like I was fighting off tears. Like I don't know why I do that too. My wife's like, "Why don't you just cry?" I'm like, I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm not afraid to cry, but I'm like I'm in church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I understand the rush of the Holy Spirit, but I mean I appreciate that you brought up that when you didn't feel it, you're like, why would I fake this? Like this is so not cool to do that. I mean, would God want me to lie about this? I mean, it's kind of weird.
Well, there's some weird kind of a cultural thing that's happening within that mini culture there, or micro culture, I guess. There's an expectation if the Spirit's really moving, you don't want to be, if everyone else is falling and you're the only one that's standing up. I mean, what does that say about you, and what about the?
Yeah, I mean, it's that awkward moment where you're like, oh, you're not in it to win it, are you?
You got kind of looking to side, like you guys are all falling down. Like, what's going on?
I mean, obviously, you always have a sense around you. You don't. I mean, you want to fit in,
of course.
But and then the tongue thing, like, what is speaking in tongues? Is it gibberish? Is it mush mouth? Is it different languages? I mean. If you know, if you don't, it's fine. I'm just curious.
I have theories, but this is my wife is shooting me looks because this is a conversation we've had many times.
Yeah.
There's a lot of schools of thought. Ben, what do you think it is? Because you come out of this circle too, my brother.
Yeah.
I do. Well, coming from kind of a mutt background of denominations, I feel like I have mixed views on it. I think that tongues can be used. God can speak through us in that way to help us communicate with people who may not speak the same language. I think there's a purpose there. I also feel that the Bible talks about how when we don't know what to pray,
right? When
we don't know, when we're just overwhelmed to the point of I don't even have words to express how I'm feeling. The Bible says that God intercedes, the Holy Spirit intercedes on our behalf in grunts and utterings. And I think I've groaned out, many times. So is that speaking in tongues? Could be. I've also seen, and I don't know how I feel about this, I've seen and heard pastors encourage the congregation to start speaking in tongues. And I struggle with that. I don't feel like that is biblical. I don't see the purpose or the reason behind it.
You're getting an amen from my wife over there.
So in those instances, I'm kind of like, no.
Right.
Well, it sounds like a lot like the Catholic Church. This is just what you do. Like when you kneel, this is when you kneel. When you stand, when you...
Kind of, except it's not quite as regimented.
Right, I would agree. If from what I've heard, it's not. But when Ben says encouraging people to speak in tongues, like, isn't that supposed to be something that just flows through you?
Yeah, and I don't. In my experience, that hasn't happened. So what I think it is, and this is not something I would not die on this hill.
Right, this is just kind of your thought.
Originally on the day of Pentecost, right? Holy Spirit comes rushing into the upper room. They are speaking. And people are hearing them on the street speaking in their own languages. So apparently speaking in tongues does have that aspect of speaking human languages. The Apostle Paul also talks about speaking in the tongue of men and angels. Also talks about making utterances and groanings that are too deep for man to know. My experience is what it was in the first assembly was people would speak in tongues, and it usually was an angelic language, using air quotes. Not saying it wasn't. It would sound like gibberish. And of course, there was these urban legends that a missionary would be speaking in tongues, and someone in Africa would understand and saying they were speaking completely my language, and they don't know it. There's stories about that, never substantiated as far as I know. So it's supposed to be something where you are praying to God, you're worshiping God in this language that you have been given when you're filled with the Holy Spirit, which is a separate occasion for Pentecostals. Or most Pentecostals.
All right. I was trying to think of some of the questions that we've had before about God. Like Ben and I have brought up why we don't see the same kind of things that are written in the Bible in today's like 2018. I know he says, oh, I agree with or you can see God in everything. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I get it. Like that. I even said, like, you mean that water bottle? Well, yeah. I see. Okay. All right. Sweet. But the stuff we read about is like crazy, off the charts. And so why don't we see that nowadays? Or what's your opinion? Why? Or do you see it? Do you see that kind of stuff, but in a 2018 kind of style? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's a good question because it's something I've thought about as well when we're not seeing people raised from the dead.
No.
One of the things I think that touches on that in a different way is the whole idea of a big percentage of Jesus's ministry was casting out demons.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you think demonic, if we thought that's a real thing, did that just go away?
Right.
And why would we not still do that? And I'm not saying we should. I don't know. Like, that's a big question for me. Like, so I think a lot of it is just, I think a lot of this stuff comes down to faith and belief. And we just don't really need God to show up in the same way they did then because their lives were in danger.
Right.
We have things we need now, but I think because we have so much more knowledge, and knowledge is a good thing, but it can also puff up. And I think knowledge can certainly affect your faith. So I have this knowledge of how the world's supposed to work, a scientific model, understanding much more than they did then. I mean, then they're like, who knows? You're dead. Maybe you can come back to life. Maybe. And a lot of times we know that people didn't really die. That's why they waited a few days before they'd bury somebody, because sometimes they just couldn't detect they were dead.
Right.
So much unknown. I feel like God sometimes is able to work better in those circumstances because they have to rely so much more because there's so much more they don't know.
Yeah, we also brought up why there's no more story written. You got the Bible and they're like, well, that was Jesus' time. Well, there's a lot before them and a lot after him. Why all of a sudden, like, Revelation's, all right, we're done. Like,
packaged, put away.
Yeah.
Well, the Mormons don't believe. The Mormons believe that the Bible's continually being written.
See, I would actually, I mean, this is crazy, but I would think like it should be. Like, why is it stopped? I mean, some of these questions, I'm just stuff I've thought about, and I'm just like, I've never said it out loud.
Well, I think it kind of depends on what you think the Bible is.
Right.
And so, depending on you saying it stopped, and the stories do continue.
Right.
I mean, God does still continue to move. It's just not recorded for people 2,000 years from now in the same way.
Right. Technology's changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
they have podcasts now.
Right.
This is the Bible for the future.
Right. Exactly. You want to grab that second question?
Well, I was actually going to go, you mentioned demonic influence and how that was a thing back in Bible times. And this kind of made me think of what the modern day equivalent would be. I know this might be going out on a limb a little bit, but track with me. Do you think mental illness, mental health, do you think maybe that's perhaps a demonic influence? Or is that too far of a stretch?
I would say that I very much believe in that spiritual dimension. And I believe the spiritual and physical is so deeply intertwined that we don't understand that.
It's above our pay grade.
It's totally above our pay grade. And so I think that in some way they're intertwined.
Sure.
But I'd want to be very careful saying that all mental illness is demonic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
And you're not saying that.
No.
But I wouldn't want anyone to think that I'm implying that.
well, like the whole topic right now is, the mass shootings with the mental health and like, why did he do that? Like, I would think that seems a little demonic to me. I mean, not in the sense as we thinking about it, like, foaming at the mouth or what are those crazy movies, Annabelle or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Or the Emily Rose,
There's a new one now called The Possession of Hannah Grace or something like that.
Oh, really?
I'm like, I don't watch that stuff.
I used to, but like I don't anymore. It kind of freaks me
The
out.
light just flickered.
Yeah, see?
Okay. All right. Let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
But I would think that when someone takes an action like that and has some, I mean, if they come back and say, yeah, this kid was dealing with mental issues, I feel like that's demonic.
I feel like the thing that I would want to be very, very careful of is if someone had mental illness, whether depression or bipolar or schizophrenia or whatever, and they go, Now we're going to use it as a point to divorce and take out all medicine. Because this is a spiritual issue, so don't take those pills. Don't see a psychiatrist. We're just going to
take the science out of it.
We're going to pray more.
Yeah.
So go ahead and pray more. That's awesome. But yet,
take your medicine.
Take your medication. Go see a counselor. See a therapist. I believe very much in all those things.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good fit here because it's one of the common threads on our podcast is mental health. And Jason and I both have counselors or psychologists that we see. And we try to be open about that on our podcast.
That's kind of our main, Ben and I are going to have a 2019 meeting. I was talking to my wife about it before we recorded tonight, and we're just going to make sure we're not being too general, but I do like the thought of, talking about mental, because guys don't talk about that stuff.
No.
I mean, how many guy friends do you have that are like, if they have that issue, are open with it on a connection level, not to say, oh yeah, I see, my wife makes me see a therapist or whatever, but not very, I mean, maybe you have a lot.
I'm a little different.
Yeah.
I'm extremely vulnerable in my life, and I try to be extremely transparent, which I've given my story in bit of detail on the podcast, which is still out there if you want to find it.
Yeah.
But, that's a whole other thing. So it's not normal. And yet I do know a lot of people that have, one of my good friends is a counselor.
Okay.
And I try to refer people to him. He does a fantastic job.
Okay.
But you're right. Most people, there's this weird stigma.
Yeah. I mean, it's gotten so much better. I mean, it's amazing, but there's still this weird thing. Like, you break your arm, you go to the, get it set. I mean, the brain that is more important than your arm.
And it's part of your body.
Right.
And it can be broken.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think people are freaked out about it because they don't know about it. Like, you can look at the science of a broken arm and say, okay, this is exactly how it works.
Yep.
This is how we're going to fix it. And you're going to be good. You look at the brain, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no one knows.
Maybe it's demons.
Right. Maybe it's demons.
Well, I see my psychologist. That's how I refer to him. That's his title. So that's the terminology I use. So Monday mornings is usually when I go. So a couple of weeks ago, I had an appointment, and I just made it known to the other sales guys in the office because they were all there on a Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm going to go see my psychologist. And usually they're a talkative bunch. But you could have heard a pin drop after I said that. They're like,
sure.
Huh? And I was like, yeah, I just go, twice a month. It's an opportunity for me to check in and make sure that, my thoughts and everything else is the way it should be. It's like we go to see chiropractors to get our backs adjusted. Yep. We go to the doctor and when we're sick. So I think it should just be a natural thing. I mean, we have the benefits that cover mental health at our employer, which is always nice. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's kind of like this thing that if people do see a counselor, they're so often almost ashamed of it. But for me, I see it as this is something that makes me stronger. So,
right.
And this podcast has pushed this guy into that. He just recently started.
It's true.
Oh, really?
He's had some, this, I've known him for a year. He is like, I mean, we fight, but that's just because we have different personalities. But
sure.
This guy has gone so far, like even with his relationship with his wife, he's killing it. I mean, he still struggles with things, but I mean, from where he was at the beginning to now, it's crazy.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah,
so,
it's been a good year.
Does that feel weird to give me that compliment?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
I see you over there like, shut up, Jason.
My wife and I go see a counselor about twice a month, and this is both second marriage for both of us. And so 6 months before we even got married, we started seeing a counselor because I'm like, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
She's got 4 kids. I've got 4 kids and a daughter-in-law. Wow. Yeah. And we got 3 living with us, but yeah, we need that outside voice going, hey, because I was a dingbat the other day, and he had to be like, that was probably not a great thing that you did when you left angry like that.
Yeah.
And we had to unpack that, and he helped me face it.
Yeah, my wife Megan and I, same thing. We kind of do maintenance counseling. We'll go for a month or 2, but yeah, if we have something that's just like, we're not firing on all cylinders with this, let's go figure it out. And it's just nice to have that third party.
Absolutely.
So, do you want to do that response to? I don't know what that even is. So, Ben's like super smart sometimes, and I'm like, that's why I said you read that question.
Yeah, I think that's a good transition point into we kind of covered the mental health. We've covered a little bit of the charismaniacs. Yes.
Excuse me.
Is that like Animaniacs?
Sort of.
So, yeah. There was a book. It was by the guy. This is a rabbit trail, I know, but I found it on my parents' bookshelf. It was really good. It was by the guy who founded the Calvary Chapel movement.
Oh.
He wrote a book called Charisma versus Charismania, and it was really good.
Cool.
Just, breaking it down, what's biblical and what's kind of crazy. So anyway, one other theme that I want to delve into is just, as far as the American church goes, because I feel like there is some pretty significant differences between how we do church here in America versus what church looked like, in Jesus' day, and even what church looks like in other countries. So to that end, I'll start with this quote from Augustine. Now, I'll also point out that there is some controversy on who actually said this. Some attribute it to Augustine from one of his sermons. Some attribute it to Dorothy Day. If you're a fact checker out there and you're trying to figure out who it is, I blame Tony Campolo. He's the guy that I heard it from.
And we don't care.
He was a little unsure of where it came from. So that was a really long introduction to
just say it. Who cares who said it? Like
I do.
If it's you don't have to quote them. Just if it's impactful, let's hear it.
See, here's the thing. Jason is like, I'm the deep thinker of the two of us, and Jason's just the doer. Like, get it done.
Yeah.
No, it's a good mix, guys.
No, it is. It helps.
Cool.
It helps move things along in our relationship, our personal one, and our podcast one, and our business one. So it works out good. But there are some clashes,
of course,
because of that.
Yeah, like maybe you should read things.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh, there it is. Boom.
Another rabbit trail.
Yeah.
How about I read the quote? Speaking of reading things,
please do.
The church may be a harlot or a whore at times, but she is also my mother.
Yeah, I read that, and I appreciated the outline that you gave me, and it made me feel so bad about my podcast. And my wife was like, what a novel idea. You actually have an outline of what you're going to talk about. It's not how I flew. It's impulsive.
Yeah, to me, that's too scattered. Like, I need, like, even today with him, and earlier today, he's like, we'll just sit down. I'm like, my anxiety's building. I'm like, no, we need to have something. Like, because we didn't know you. Because I said, what if he comes in, he doesn't know how to talk, and he's just like, yes,
stop
no,
laughing,
yes,
my wife, mujer.
Yeah, like one answer questions. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, we need some jumping off points.
Ask me a question. I'll give you the worst case scenario. So ask me a question. Go ahead.
What are you doing tomorrow?
I don't know, nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, how bad would that be?
Right.
Yeah.
And as I said, I needed some.
It's gonna be like, all right, the 10-minute podcast here. That's gonna be great.
I tell you what, he's like revamped. This is a little different than our normal thing. If you guys start again, I would ask him for. I mean, it seems simple, but like he's got timestamps on there so we can place ads in, and like
you have ads.
We make our own ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's still cool.
Yeah,
asking for reviews,
right?
Find us.
Yeah,
on
we
Facebook.
do that. We did that. So. Yeah.
They actually say this is complete tangent, but for a lot of like our live stream, they say pretend that a sponsor is like we have a tip time in our rideshare one. So I go, tip time is sponsored by Van True Cameras. That's the dash cams we use for our cars just to protect ourselves.
Sure.
And it just makes you sound more, and we have an affiliate link and everything, but it makes it sound more professional, even though you don't have a technical ad.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
And what company's going to be like,
hey, Jason,
what?
Can we get to the question?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, let's see that spun it around again there.
Thank you.
The church may be a harlot or a whore at times, but she is my mother.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, what does it even mean? Because I don't know what that. I've never seen that quote.
I think I kind of know what it means.
Well, let me give you my take. In the context that I heard it, it was Tony Campolo, who's a pretty renowned author, speaker, definitely on the liberal side of things. And he has a way of calling the church to look at what's really important and helping the church stop doing what's not important.
Which is awesome.
There's a lot of people in church who don't give a shit about the poor, but they would be up in arms because I just said shit.
That's a
And
Tony Campolo
That's a Tony
quote.
Campolo
Oh, is it?
quote.
Except he said damn.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it was
But
shit.
no,
but-
well, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. But so his whole thing is, how can that be if Jesus called us to be the people that make a difference in the world, that actually care about people? Then how is it that we get so caught up on this stupid little stuff and completely overlook, everything else?
I need to look into this guy because that sounds like a guy I could get on board with.
And then as far as the whore word, Jesus often, and Paul and many other biblical writers, refer to the church as the bride of Christ. But here in America especially, we put our participation, our involvement with church and God stuff on the same level that we put on everything else. And so it's like we whore ourselves out to all these different pursuits and things that matter to us as Americans, like wealth and power and everything else, at the cost of being true to our bride, or being true as our role as the bride of Christ. So that's where the whole whore thing comes in. So the church is a whore, but she's also my mother. So there's a lot of bad, but at the end of the day, the church is also like a mother, in that it's a place we can go and be cared for and looked after. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting quote. Wanted to hear your perspective on it as well.
Well, so I have a good friend who started that same group we're in on Facebook, the Kingdom of God think tank. And he's always wanting to just abandon the church. You know what? Skip this. I want to do my own thing. We can do this as a couple families. And I'm like, I get the desire to do that because sometimes I get frustrated with the church as well. Even though I really like the church I go to, the church is real broken. Right? I mean, we know that attendance in America is declining. Really funny, though, one of the things I used to post on Facebook a lot when I was very active was I would try to call the church out too in my own very little way. And boy, did that make people mad.
Yeah.
Did not want to hear about it. Anything about how the church needs to improve and how it's broken, people get real upset. But the honest fact is, so we do these lectures, right? Do you know what one of the least effective ways to communicate information is? Is a lecture. For talking, one person talking for 30 to 45 minutes, the average person, and I don't remember the numbers exactly, but scientific studies have shown the average person will retain less than 10% of what the message was, even a couple hours later. A week later, I believe it falls below 5% for most people. So we do the same thing the same way every time, and we think that if we're going to mix things up, we're going to do 3 songs at the beginning of service instead of 2, and now we're being edgy.
That's so funny. That's so true.
And you've got announcements happen at the same time, and you're going to do 3 songs, and we criticize Catholics for being too regimented.
Right.
And we're just as regimented. We just don't have it spelled out in a bulletin unless you're Christian Reformed.
Right.
And that's not a criticism. It's just that's how it is.
I think a lot of people are that type A, though, like how I am, like things need to be spelled out. If we don't do it that way, it's chaos.
They find comfort in that, and that's okay. But I think another thing that happens is we get too caught up in tradition and we get too caught up in numbers. So we have this real weird system where we pay this one guy to be the voice. And so many times we look to him as he's the man with the answers. We're all called to be priests.
Yeah.
Right? We're all called to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And we're all called to walk in his ways. It's good to have someone we're following. But then we can get hung up on having a building, and then we've got to pay for the building, and we've got to pay for the staff. It means we have to have people tithe, which means I can't always speak about what I want to speak about, or even be honest about what's happening in my life. Because if you tell people that you're addicted to pornography, they make you leave the church.
Yeah.
I know that because that's what happened to me twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's my bad. But if you can't be honest in the church setting, you have to hide everything. That I think to an extreme, we see the Catholic priest, a lot of problems happening there, because on top of that, they also want them to be celibate. And if they're struggling with things, who can they talk about? Because then you don't get to have your job anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the complete opposite way a church should think. If someone comes to you with those problems, you should be like, okay, we're gonna have to step away for a while, but we're gonna work on this.
Yeah,
like
we've got to. But I am not willing to abandon the structure. My good friend wants to abandon it. And like, no, this is the context in which we have to operate. The church is my mother. I'm not going anywhere. This is Jesus's idea. Maybe not like this. The way we do it now, a lot of times.
No, it's definitely not. I don't think.
But we've got to work and try to change it from the inside. We don't just run out and run away and criticize and complain. Get in the middle of it. Get in leadership.
Get your hands dirty.
Change. Exactly.
Don't throw baby Jesus out with the bathwater.
Well, Ben always talks about Americanizing religion. Like our religion here is like Americanized, and we just it's a lot about the money.
Yeah,
it's just how the money flows,
and it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be because you're right. Just like you said, there's a staff that bills got to get paid, and that's a good point. When you brought up like he might not speak his mind about a topic that he's super passionate about it because he's worried that the check's going to bounce or the person's going to be like, yeah, I'm not giving my $1,000.
Yeah. And Carol had an interesting experience once where there was and Carol's my wife. There's a congregation she was a part of, and there was one person who gave a huge percentage of what they needed to survive. And they got to a push shove kind of a moment where he wanted a certain thing and other people wanted another thing. And he basically said, if I don't get my way, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to give anymore. And so he got his way.
Wow.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. No
That's
kidding.
tough. Well, it's same, not in the same situation, but the lumber, how like they had all their money in, I mean, not the church, but that's just who was at that church. And then it dries up and you're like, oh boy, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
That instance, and even the church that I went to after that, both just really confirmed for me that I don't want to do ministry for a paycheck. Because if ministry is wrapped up in a paycheck, there are just so many unknowns and so many risks and exposure that I don't want to put my family through.
I kind of feel like Ben and I volunteer a lot. That is his avenue. Like that's what he loves because he can still provide for his family, but still impact, what's the youth ministry? The
Urban Transformation Ministries.
That's about helping guys get their S straight and stuff like that. And he does stuff with soccer. And you're on anything else for church? I mean, not currently, but I'm sure you've done a ton in the past.
Yeah, I'm also what they call a small group coach.
Sure.
It's really new, and we're still trying to figure out what it is. But there's the discipleship director at our church kind of leans on me for trying new things. So last year we had a traveler program where if somebody came to the front of the church to make some changes and to start, to change the trajectory of their life, we would have these guides that would come alongside of them and just meet with them and help them through that process of making those changes. So I did that for a while. Now she's having me be a small group coach. So I sit down with the small group leaders in the church and give them ideas and feedback and, check out their small group and find ways to help them grow and do it better. And, that's the kind of thing that excites me about ministry and about church. And the best part is there's no paycheck wrapped up in it. I just do it because I like it.
Yeah, exactly. You're not doing it to put food on your table.
Right.
So
yeah.
One of the questions you still go to church and after experiencing the pain, and obviously you've alluded to what it was, them dropping you, and because of that, why do you still go? I mean, obviously you don't go to the church that happened to, but
no.
Did you after that happened, did you be like, I'm done, like peace out for a while,
After the first resignation in Des Moines, Iowa, they had I felt like a priest because of the, it wasn't a denomination, but it was, and they had a whole plan. So, and I'll never forget the morning they came over and told me I needed to resign, but they had a whole plan of how to get it back to restoration. And they were real worried. They're very concerned about me, still loved me, wanted to make sure I was going to be okay, paid me for another 3 months and paid for health insurance, and God did some amazing things in that time, and very concrete, real things. The timing of things is just could not have been coincidence. So I
Right.
had, and even times I felt like God spoke to me, not audibly, but like very deep impressions. And he was very, very real and very present, and nobody can ever take that away from me. The second time was a little tougher because I was trying to be very honest. And so if I'd mess up, I would tell somebody, like, oh man, I screwed up today. I looked at pornography for 5 minutes in my office. After the third time, they said, you're done.
Yeah.
And then no restoration plan. It was a smaller church. They didn't have that. They're independent at the time. So they're just like, yeah, you can still go to church here. But I feel like Peter, when Jesus gave the tough teaching about saying, hey, you have to eat my flesh and drink my blood, or you have no part in me, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And everyone laughed. And Jesus turned to his disciples and said, are you going to leave too? And Peter's like, where else would we go? You alone have the words of life. So that's why I can't leave the church. You can have a relationship with Jesus and not go to church.
Right, for sure.
But the community, what I still feel like I'm called to, that involves being a part of a local church.
Okay. And you don't have to answer this, but clearly you've dealt with your issue or still dealing with it.
Oh, still dealing with it, sure.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to sensitively ask, like,
You don't, my brother, you can ask anything.
no, but I mean, it's
For your listeners too.
yeah, but I don't know what that, I mean, obviously I know what that, I don't have that addiction, but I know what an addiction is.
Sure.
And you're, kind of an alcoholic. You're always an alcoholic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it kind of the same thing? Do you go to therapy for it? Those kind of things?
I don't go to therapy for it. It's not what it used to be.
Right.
There were behaviors that would drive me to that I have not done for many years.
Right.
And I feel like if it ever got to that point again, I would certainly try to get therapy for it. I'm extremely open and honest with my wife. Unfortunately, we're still at the point where she'll have to ask me, how have you been doing the last couple weeks? And I will not lie to her. I'll always tell her.
Yeah.
If I've looked at porn, and I will tell her, yeah, I did. And that still happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I wish it didn't. But it is, addiction to pornography is an interesting thing. Just real quickly, every addiction has a hook. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you're an alcoholic, you're generally looking to, calm down.
Numb some pain.
Sure. It's a downer, right?
Yep.
You're going to kind of slow you down a little bit. That's a hook. Having that need to kind of quiet things down, slow down. So then there's another hook, and that's to speed things up. And that's when you have uppers, cocaine, things like that. That's a hook. And then you have hallucinogenics, right? That's another thing you can become addicted to. Pornography incorporates all three. All three hooks are present in pornography. Plus it's tied to your sex drive, which was given by God.
Right.
And then you throw shame in there, and it's an extremely difficult thing to break. I believe it can be broken. I was on a radio show earlier this year, and a really nice guy. He's a great guy. And he was like, well, if I pray for you, you won't struggle with porn anymore. And you only struggle it because I haven't prayed for you yet. I'm like, and we had a real on the air live show talk about, that's kind of crap.
That sounds great on a radio show,
Right.
but we all know that that's BS.
not real
You know
life.
how many times people have prayed for me to be done with this, and
Yeah.
and I shouldn't still be struggling it in my brain, but if I'm going to be honest, I still struggle with it sometimes.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you for being honest. I think what's going on is completely your struggles is normal and stuff with like that. I mean, it's a little, the consequences are different as far as an alcoholic. Like if they go 20 years and they still struggle and they want to drink, but they don't, they have a slip up. I mean, it could be disastrous in a real hurry.
Yeah, I can drive after I've looked at porn.
Right.
I'm not going to kill anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
But
It is something though, seeing all the people we drive home for Uber and Lyft, just how smashed they can get.
Oh, I bet.
It's interesting our age people do it.
Really?
Yeah, because 22-year-olds, they're out to party. I mean, they're college kids. They're just blowing off steam. You know what I mean? I didn't do much of that, but I mean, I feel like that's pretty normal for society. But
It's very common.
when you get people our age where, we'll take them home, but they're not they're having a good time. But then you'll get these people that are just obliterated at like 50, and you're just like, man, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, and 50 is really old.
Yeah, really old. We've
Really
established
old.
that
Yeah.
because I'm younger than
Wanted to
50.
hit that again.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's got to be sad, though. I mean, because you're like you're even implying, like, I'd be just like, dude, like, really? I mean, it's Tuesday night.
Well, yeah, especially during the week. And you can always tell, like, if they're wearing a suit, they're probably at a holiday party. So it's like, all right, you know.
that.
But when you're, like, all in just scrubby clothes or whatever, and you're completely blasted on a Tuesday night or whatever, you're like, dude, you got to get a grip, you know. And it's tough.
You can't really say that, though.
No, well, you can say what you want. It might not go well.
No, I wouldn't think. Well, they're drunk. Who knows?
We're independent
It's true.
contractors, so we
Gotcha.
can kind of do what we want.
If I would listen to your other podcast, I'd know that.
Right. I would not recommend you listen to the other one.
If you have no connection to the rideshare world,
It's very
not
niche. I mean, it is like my wife has not listened to 1 second of it, but cannot wait till Threads comes out.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like
So what's her name?
Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Yeah.
This is Dave. I'm in your basement.
She's not here. She'll be here in a little while, but she's out with the kiddos.
Gotcha.
But did you want to touch on the what he talked about with the pornography addiction? I didn't know if we wanted to move on from that or not.
we can keep going with it if you
Well,
want.
I don't have anything else, so
No, it's something that I've dealt with in my own life, and now as a father, I'm dealing with it with my son, and that is probably the hardest thing I've had to do as a dad.
How old is he?
He is 12.
Of course. There it is.
Yep. So it's a struggle. Thank God it's not like a recurrent thing for me. It's not, it's something that, you know, pokes its head every now and then.
well, it
but
does
it's
for me
not
too.
like,
I mean, I'm not going to
yeah.
sit here and say it doesn't.
but it's not like this. It's not, but there was a time in my life where it very much was
Yeah.
an addiction. And having to tell my wife about that was devastating. And she too has been great about, you know, back when it was before we were married. So I'm a newly married guy, and having to come to my wife and say, this is something I struggle with. She was really good about helping with that and just checking in and whatnot. So now having a 12-year-old son, I don't know. He just wasn't very good at covering his tracks.
Yeah, they're
Kids are
terrible.
stupid.
They're so dumb.
Not just with that, but with everything. Like
Yeah.
they lie to you, and you're like, seriously, I've been around the block. I know
Yeah.
you're lying to
Or
me.
like, I
Exactly.
watched you do this.
Right.
Come on.
Yep. So we got him a phone, maybe against our best judgment. I don't know. It was a tough call. We got it for him for Christmas last year. And up until about September of this year, 9 months, we didn't have any major issues. But come September, even with our best efforts of putting screening software on and filters and blocking apps, somehow the Chrome app was not blocked. So he could pull up whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
And that led him down some roads that I wish he just didn't go down.
Right.
So now, having dealt with my own porn addiction issue, now I'm in a spot where this is something my son is delving in, and I just want to be like, dude, don't go down this road. This is going to mess you up.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah, it's real tough. I think and this is one of the problems of the Western Church as well, to kind of touch back on one of the previous questions. We don't talk about sex.
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, my introduction to pornography was like 6.
Wow.
6? Dude,
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
you don't even know what's going on at 6.
right. Yeah. And so I found my dad's stash, you know, behind there, and so it was rough. And one thing where you talk about, like, the church doesn't talk about sex, like my parents, and I had a kid at 19, and my parents didn't talk about sex.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't understand why it's so tabooed. I mean, obviously you don't need to preach it from the pulpit about it, but I mean,
Well,
why?
I think you do.
I just
really do.
I mean, in what context?
We got to. So I understand what you're saying. So you don't go into graphic, explicit detail, right?
yeah.
We're not. No one's looking for
Sure.
that. But we have to normalize this is something that happens. You are going to have sex when you get older. unless you're an extremely rare person. You are going to
have desires.
You're going to fulfill those desires by yourself as you're a teenager.
Right.
If it's all taboo, then shame enters in, and shame and sex is a toxic mix. Always.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the church's responsibility. It's the parents' responsibility.
It's both, in my opinion.
I don't know.
Because you can't. How often do your kids just listen to you solely alone in your voice? Do you want other voices speaking into their life or just yours?
I prefer just mine, but I know it's not just
you
mine.
don't want, so they don't go to school?
Well, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times, what percentage of the time do they listen to what you're telling them?
Not much.
Yeah. So they sometimes, that's why, and you got to be super careful if someone else is talking to them about sex. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're super aware and careful of that, and I don't want it to be really weird and like overwhelmingly about sex, but I think it's really weird if we don't ever talk about one of the major aspects of all of our adult lives.
Yeah, but how do you wrap that into a church service?
I don't know, but my like when we hit, the Bible is not shy about sex.
Right.
Bible talks about sex quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so in Solomon's Porch, my pastor, there's a segment he'll just say, well, then he had sex with her and the Judah Tamar story, lots of stories, crazy stories. And he'll just say they had sex.
Yeah.
And so,
I don't have anything wrong with that.
I didn't know what you like.
No. I just like, you seem passionate about including that in spirituality, but then I asked you like, well, how do you include that?
Yeah.
Like just saying they had sex or like, because that doesn't really help anyone.
Well, I would say probably what I would do is I would suggest that people talk about it, especially, well, maybe not. I don't think you should have maybe you should have a 3-week series on sex, and what is, but I would probably think that would be more like an adult class.
I wouldn't.
Like on a Wednesday night or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate having someone teach the kids about it in a just like the school does. Yeah. I wouldn't hate that. I mean, I'm just kind of popped into my head. Sure. I'm just saying, like, from the pulpit, how would you talk about it?
Well, see, I would want him to talk about things that you struggle with, temptations, how you can get in trouble, things you got to be careful of. Mm-hmm. You should be having a healthy sexual relationship with your spouse. Things of that nature. Now, I don't think they should have diagrams.
Well, no.
The Kama Sutra.
I knew you didn't think
or
that.
anything like that, with a laser pointer.
Right.
I mean, I'd probably attend that, though.
We're going to teach a technique today, guys.
Yeah.
If you're offended, you may want to leave.
It's all about church growth, after all.
All the college kids stay. And all
absolutely. And then some of the other people that you're like,
okay, never knew.
All right. Who cares? Get your freak on. So, are we getting a little edgy for this podcast?
No. I love talking when Ben and I agree a lot, but it's good when we don't sometimes because it adds a little bit of, it's good to not agree. So
it's a fair question. I don't have a great answer.
Yeah, I thought you would have something ready to go. I'll be honest with you.
Nah.
I mean,
at our church, we've got pornography comes up at least 2 or 3 times a month from the pulpit.
What?
Mm-hmm. My pastor is heartily committed to our church being a porn-free church.
Okay.
Interesting.
Which I commend him for it. So he's the exclusion. Like, he's not the typical pastor.
No, that does not sound like it.
And in all of our men's small groups, it's a topic we ask about. Like, how are you doing with this?
There's a movement, and I haven't seen it much. It was like a couple of years ago. Was it
Porn and pancakes?
That and what was it? Promise Keepers?
Well,
is that kind of the same?
Promise Keepers is a different thing. That was a big thing in the 90s.
Gosh, I swear I saw this recently in the last 5 years.
There's a big thing now called Fight the New Drug, which is a non-faith-based organization that's it's attacking pornography and trying to get to the science and some of the things that can be damaging about it. So that's a group I follow on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here. This is pretty vulnerable, but I don't have a huge problem with it.
With porn? Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm so happy you don't.
I mean, I know it's not right. It's just like I don't have a problem with gay people either, but I know God looks at...
You say you don't have a problem with people looking at porn?
Correct.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't have a huge problem like You yourself, like,
Oh, no, I said that earlier.
Yeah, you did. I thought you were referencing that.
No. I'm saying I don't think it's the end of the world.
Well, it's a good thing it's not.
Well, but I mean,
I hear you.
Personally, as you being a leader, I think you needed to step down. I mean, I think now do I agree with what the church did and kicked you to the curb? No.
How many church leaders do you think look at porn?
Oh, half.
No, it's higher.
Higher than that?
It's quite a bit higher.
Yeah.
So should they all step down?
Right, exactly. I know.
I mean, the first time I absolutely should have stepped down
Right.
because I'd been hiding it for 6 months and it was really bad. And I was spending hours every week in my office looking at porn.
Right.
The second time, there was 3 very short incidences, which I was honest about immediately. And then they're like, now you're done. Because they don't know how to handle it.
Well, yeah, you kind of went for the exact opposite. You hit it, and then all of a sudden you were forthcoming. They're like freaking out, like, "What are we supposed to do?"
Yeah.
Like this.
And when I went there, I told them, "Hey, I resigned because I was addicted to pornography."
Before you hired?
Well, yeah.
Oh, well, then that's weird.
It's kind of weird, but
That is a weird.
I put
ending.
him in a really tough spot.
You did.
I did. That's not great. How many pastors are honest about their porn usage?
Not many. It's interesting. You mentioned the Promise Keepers. Now, I don't know if this is just a story or an urban legend, but during those rallies, or maybe it was even a pastor's conference, I don't know, but hotels tracked what sites were looked up, and it was like
It goes way up.
noticeably high
It goes way up.
when there's pastors or Promise Keepers conferences.
Yeah. Guys in hotel rooms away from their wives.
Yep.
And it's a real problem, apparently, when youth pastor conventions and things, too.
Yeah, it's like, how do you deal with it, though? I mean, I understand it's a natural desire to do it, but then you got, I got a daughter, and some of the, I mean, are you sure they're legal? And like, if you're a legal adult, like I'm like, whatever, you do what you want to do, like.
Well, this, I know we're on a tangent here, and I could go super deep in there and don't need to, but the problem is that we really have no way of knowing the actresses on those videos, how willing and how much there's a lot of trafficking that goes into pornography.
Especially in this state.
Yeah, in this area.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can move on from that, but it's a good conversation. I would be happy to sit down with you another time and, just as much as you wanted to give as far as that kind of topic.
Sure.
So, so this one might get some topic too. And I don't know him a lot, but Ben is pretty passionate about him. Rob Bell. What do you think about Rob Bell? And even our last podcast, we had a guest.
Came up like a lot.
Yeah, and it's intrigued me to. I haven't done anything yet, but I was like, I need to look into this guy because I kind of like some of the things he's saying. But
who's Rob Bell?
You know who Rob Bell is.
I know who Rob Bell is. I first heard Rob Bell when I was in Iowa as a pastor, and I'd moved from Grand Rapids to Des Moines, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this stuff and seeing these Numa videos about this guy Rob Bell, and I'm like, this stuff's amazing.
Was it when he was in Grand Rapids that you started seeing it?
At Mars Hill. I was in Des Moines. He was in
here,
Grand Rapids.
right?
And so I'm seeing these Numa videos, and I'm like, I love this guy's amazing. This is incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And then I look at the box. Grand Rapids, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Well, I feel like he's right up your alley because you talk about changing the church from the inside. You know what I mean? Instead of, just bitching and complaining about it. I feel like he's kind of that guy. Am I right up that alley? Or
Yeah, I mean, that's true to an extent.
Okay.
He's sort of done away with the church model.
Yeah.
Well, now, but I think you're talking old school
Back
Rob
then,
Bell.
that
when
was
I
very
followed
much
him, when I started going to Mars Hill when I moved back to this area, and then he left 6 months earlier. And I've read a bunch of his books, and I used to listen to his sermons every week, listen to dozens and dozens of his sermons. One of the best speakers I've ever heard. I was listening to his podcast for a while, and I stopped listening to him about a year and a half ago because he is just moving down a path that I'm like, you lost me, bud.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know it's a big word for our podcast, but orthodoxy. Do you know what orthodoxy is?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard of Orthodox, like an Orthodox Jew, but
So if something is unorthodox, we look at it and we're like, oh, that's odd. That's interesting.
yeah.
So orthodoxy in church world, it's basically a word for this is within the realm of acceptability as a church. Rob Bell has gone beyond orthodoxy.
Like early Rob Bell or now?
Now Rob Bell.
Okay.
I was tracking with him when he was still within that bubble.
Well, clearly you
Yeah.
guys are on the same wavelength
yeah.
with that.
I read, his book Sex God and Velvet Elvis, and
Yep.
but what he lost me is he's really embraced what I would call he's a universalist now.
Yeah.
And he really, when I was listening to his podcast, he was starting to talk. He wouldn't even really talk about God. He'd talk about the universe.
Oh,
So like we just, the universe is, and he still talk about the Bible and stuff, but he'd have guests on that would be like, really all paths lead to God.
Oprah. He was very much became like Oprah.
yeah. I feel like when you're talking like that, you're more like hippy dippy. You're like, oh, the universe, yeah,
Yeah,
all
love.
all the feelings and
Although that one time we
Flower.
were out rideshare driving.
which guy?
Was it Rob?
No, it was you and me. We had a conversation about this, about the universe.
We did.
We did. So here's how the conversation went. Your sister,
Terrible memory.
Your sister writes books about this sort of thing, right?
My sister?
Yeah.
Well, she has a book.
Yeah. So she has a book, and my perspective of her, she's a little hippy dippy. Am I accurate?
She probably won't listen to this, but she's fake.
Okay.
All right.
So
There's
Okay.
that.
I'm throwing it out there.
That's all right.
So we had a conversation about the book and whatnot. So I just jokingly said to Jason on our Telegram chat app, I'm going to speak to the universe and I'm going to get me a long ride from the airport.
Oh, that's right.
Next thing you know, my phone starts dinging and I've got a 45-minute plus
Well,
ride.
what he did is he said he teased me and said, "Hey, I gotta." So a long ride is like we get notifications if it's the weird how they set it up. It's either 45 minutes to an hour or anything above an hour. Like that's the setting. So
Oh.
it could be like 3 hours or
Yeah.
it could be 61 minutes. It's the dumbest thing.
Okay.
But he joked to me that he got like this awesome ride from the airport. It was an XL, which is a bigger vehicle, which is you make more money.
Okay.
And then he's like, or did you get the actual ride and then say the universe thing or not?
No, I
Okay.
said that afterwards.
Okay.
So
But it was just like this hippy dippy thing. And I'm like, there's some weird coincidence about that though, because like you literally said it
I spoke it and then it happened.
and it happened.
It was really odd. But it's just like your lights flickering when we were talking about the
Right.
demons.
I mean, is it a coincidence?
coincidence.
Yeah, it's not the
I mean, you're
universe.
sitting by the airport. The chances of you getting a long ride, there's obviously a good chance.
I kind of feel like it only is legit with God. Like if you have, when you get the goosebumps, like
Sure.
I feel like that's, I mean, not like right now if I got them, but I mean,
Right.
I feel like that's when this is when God is working. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, is that sketch?
I hear you.
I don't know.
Have you tried it again?
No, I haven't.
Well, why
Well, he'll
not?
try tonight, maybe.
I was
One
a little
for
weirded
one.
out by it.
All right. That's
It's like, wait a second, that actually just happened. Okay.
I'm worshiping the wrong God.
But here's a question about that. What if he
Yeah.
like turned his car off and actually prayed to God and he got it?
Mm-hmm.
What, I mean, we talk about coincidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is, I mean, I have trouble when people say that or like, well, I prayed and it happened. Or when they say they want to pray about, I'm part of you've heard of Young Life, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm on a committee for Young Lives, which is Young Life for teen moms.
Okay.
So there's a certain person in our committee, and she just asked for prayers for the dumbest things. I mean, it's just like, I mean, maybe I'm being mean about it, but I mean, just dumb things. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. Just things like, I'm like, really?
Like parking spots.
Like what?
Parking spots.
Well, yeah, I mean, just, I mean, it sounds stupid, but, just like, I pray tonight during the podcast when we stream live that the lights won't flicker. Like,
The lights just flickered. That was weird.
Right.
No, they didn't.
yeah, I know. But I mean, it's those kind of things
Yeah,
that
I
I
hear
actually have a weird problem with it. I mean, it's you doing your own thing. I'm one of those guys where I'm like, as long as it doesn't affect my life, you can do what you want.
Sure.
Like, I mean, it's kind of hippy dippy and that's strange for me. But, but yeah, I mean, I feel bad saying that. Like, I mean, seriously, you're praying about a parking spot, like that you get the closest one so you don't have to walk as far because your leg hurts.
Well, and I think sometimes, and not to be mean, but I think sometimes a lot of people who pray for the closed parking spots probably should walk more.
All right. No, seriously. Yeah.
Guilty as charged as
Yeah.
well. I understand what you're saying, and I get that. But then I also have a flip side to that, which a good friend of mine in Iowa would say, when we get to heaven, no, God is not going to say to anyone, Jason, why did you trust me so much? You really should have trusted me less. You should have asked me for less things.
Yeah.
But I think that can become distracting to the real intent and purpose of God in our lives, tying all the way back to Western Christianity of God is here to make my life more comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a problem because you get to the motivation behind the prayer is the problem, not the actual prayer itself.
Yeah. And I find myself praying not as often as I should, but when I am, I'm asking for, and it's not a parking spot, but it's like some struggle that I'm going through.
Right.
And I feel like it's more like, oh, convenience, God, right? Like everything's good, so I'm not praying, but now and then I feel guilty about saying it.
Right.
I mean, it's this weird battle in my head.
Yeah, I mean, we say things like, "Oh, thank God for this close parking spot," but do we take that same approach when our kid's struggling with pornography, or when a child, things that are hard and difficult? We don't think to go, "Oh, thank God that I'm going through this," but I think maybe we should. Like,
Well, I'm usually on the other end on the words for God when I'm going through some stuff. I mean, I'm not thanking God. I'm damning him because I'm struggling. You know what I mean?
But that's the whole thing with Western Christianity is it's all about comfort and what's easy. And we attribute all of that to God, but isn't God also in the hard stuff? And
yeah, let's jump off on that. There, you're bringing up some questions that Ben and I have talked about. Is like, why does God? And when I'm asking these, it's rhetorical. Obviously, you don't know the answer.
Sure,
but
you
might.
I mean, if you do, then we got a different conversation to have. But like, why does God? Ben and I have talked like, you got this amazing family, and their kid gets leukemia, and it's just terrible and terrible and terrible, and the child passes away, and then you got this terrible family. They're drug addicted, they're abusive, and like, why did you allow this family to have this struggle where this family is not even living the right way? In air quotes, not the religious way, but just not being a good person in general. And they're like, everything's fine. I don't know. I struggle with that. It pisses me off when I see a good family.
As well it should, because it goes back to the problem of Job. We go back, and that's one of the things that drew me to Solomon's Porch and actually draws me more to Scripture, because the Bible is not a feel-good book. The Bible is not a comfort-driven book. If you look at what Jesus said, he says, you're going to suffer. You're going to have to take up your cross. You're going to have to die to yourself. And so for me, there's never going to be a good answer for that stuff. And people have been trying to explain it since the beginning of time. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
Because we live in a sinful, fallen, broken world, and we've made sinful, fallen, broken choices. And sometimes those bad things are the result of the things that we've chosen to do. And sometimes it's just because we live in a world that has been deeded over to our enemy.
Well, it's tough to explain that to your kid too, because like, why? If my 10 or she's be 11 on the 20th, but she's like, why did this happen to us? You know what I mean? And like, well, sin. Ben and I have talked about this. I'm like, well, and they're like, okay,
not helpful, Dad.
Yeah, like the one word answer, sin. See you, hon. Have a good day at school.
Yep, that's all.
If you enter into that space with her, and instead of going like, oh, I'm Dad, I got to have this figured out, I have an eloquent answer, like Ben or I might want to do.
Right.
Like, let's sit down and chat about this for 2 hours. That's not always helpful either.
No.
But to go, you know what, honey? You know what? I don't know. And it hurts, doesn't it? And it's confusing.
Yeah.
And yet I still have faith in this God that he does. Death isn't the end for us.
Right.
Right? There's more. This doesn't make sense, and it does hurt, and it sucks. But what are we going to do with that pain and emotion?
Right. Yeah, I do try to be honest with my wife and I are pretty open with them about like, we would never, I have said like, and stuff like, hon, I have no idea. Ask your mom. Like, I'm never going to be like, mom's the smart one. I'm never going to be like, just BS her. Cause no kid it might work in the meantime. Well, Ben and I will probably talk to the next podcast about Santa Claus. That's kind of the whole, my daughter doesn't believe anymore. And I actually said to her, I think I want to sit down and record a 20-minute segment with her and put it in our Christmas episode. Like,
love it.
And just say, honey, tell me how you felt because it's this year that she doesn't know that Santa's BS.
Wait a minute. What? Santa's BS. Sorry.
But just like, and I don't know. Sorry I got off on this topic,
it's cool.
but it's just like I want her to explain, because you're like lying to your kid. You know what I mean? And how do you say to her, well, God's real,
Yeah.
but Santa's BS?
We didn't do Santa when I was raising my 4 kids. We didn't do Santa, but I get your point. And that's why we didn't do it. But I don't think it's wrong to do Santa.
No. Now we got the stupid elf on the shelf, and
Oh my
it's
God.
literally right there. She had this studio
there it
was
is.
all torn down until 2 hours ago because she had 12 girls in here for her birthday party. They were all like in there. I'm like, I got to tear all this
That's
down.
a scene from Dante's Inferno. Let me tell you what.
Yeah. So, but I don't know how I got on that topic. Gosh, can you redirect me? Look at me scrambling. Well, no, I can do it. I just didn't know if there's anything more. One of the things that Ben and I got a chuckle out of him is, what would you ask God if you had the opportunity? I said, WTF. Like,
Fair enough.
like there's so many things like we talked about, like the leukemia kid and why you allow whatever, you know what I mean?
I had this nice flowery, eloquent
I know.
answer.
And then he asked me, I'm like, WTF.
That is the
That's
start.
it?
That is the best difference in your personalities, right?
Right.
There, right?
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And so that's what I would ask him. What would you ask him?
Why can't the Lions ever be good?
Oh, geez. That's everyone, every Lions fan.
It is absolutely. But I'm just saying, close to my heart,
Right.
man.
I mean, what's the first thing that pops in your head that you would ask?
Why do we have to pray for things? Why do you want us to ask you about things that you already know whether it should be done or not?
Absolutely. That's a very good question.
I don't get it. I'm like, I'm not a good prayer.
Yeah.
But I'm like, God, you want me to ask you for this, but if it's so important, you really should not be hinging on me asking you for it.
Right. I shouldn't be the breaking point here. Like,
That's going to go badly for the universe.
and you know that because, sin.
Yeah. Hello. Twice failed pastor here. Let's maybe not put that on me.
Right.
And then if you want to, okay, so great. I get that. And there's people listening right now like, no, dude, you get it wrong. He just wants to have a conversation. When I have a conversation with you two, a really weird thing happens. You talk back to me.
Right.
Clearly, God's not talking back to me audibly. And I have felt God impress things in my heart, or however you want to say it. I felt like he's spoken to me.
Yeah. Me too.
Really rarely.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, God, I'm on the way to the gym. I feel like you want me to have my radio off. And, oh, look, there's this squirrel. I wonder what he's doing over there. That's me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I can't do 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But if I am having a conversation, you don't say anything.
Yeah, that's tough,
Like,
isn't it?
why did you do it like this? This seems like a weird way to do it.
Right. And there is stories in the Bible about him speaking to people. And then you always wonder if that's an interpretation of, like, because I can't believe that back then he did and now he doesn't. Like, I feel like that's an interpretation of whoever wrote that. I mean, personally.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you're in a place where it was a much simpler time, and I think people actually heard his voice.
I mean, maybe.
Why not?
But why not now? That brings us back to our hour ago when I asked, why is everything different now? Why don't I see the miracles, the Red Sea parting? I think I got that C right.
You did.
I went to Christian school too. It's terrible how much I mean, he's
right.
spitting out scripture and everything, but I was forced to go to Christian school. So we know what happens when you were, well, I mean, obviously my parents said, this is where you're going to go. I didn't really have a choice at 6.
No,
but,
not really.
yeah. So what else we got?
Oh man,
I know. I'm like all not worked up, but I'm like having a good time, and
it's
we're
been really good.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah,
We've been
it's fun.
cranking.
Yeah. You feel like this is a good place to wrap it up?
I don't know what else. I mean, we talked about that. We talked, Ben had, if God is all powerful, why doesn't he snap his fingers and cure some mental illness? Kind of the same thing, sin, right?
Thanos tried snapping his fingers and half of all the living beings died.
Who?
Thanos, Marvel, Avengers.
I'm not.
Oh, dude. Sorry.
What I should have said is like, I'm a DC guy, but
you
I don't
go.
even know what that difference is. I know I'm just not a nerd
Well,
like that.
there's a tangent we won't go down because
Right.
we don't have time for that.
Yeah, I was cool. Like everyone, if you're super into like those kind of movies,
I am.
when I say this, you'll cry in your heart a little bit. I love Daredevil, the movie.
With Ben Affleck?
Yeah.
You're a bad person.
See,
Oh,
exactly.
wow.
Like the consensus with the people in that realm, if you like Daredevil, they don't want to
It
talk
really
to you.
wasn't that bad.
No, in fact, there's music that I listened to today that was on that soundtrack.
So you want to watch Daredevil, watch the Netflix series.
Well, they just canceled it.
Amazing. Stop. You're hurting my heart now.
They did.
I know they did. It's upsetting.
I
Anyway.
found a new Netflix series to binge on.
Yeah.
And they just released season 3, Travelers.
What is
Travelers.
this? What is Travelers?
So it's a little bit sci-fi,
Okay. I'm
Out.
interested.
not sci-fi to the point where it's like this is so weird. But so the show starts with people dying. You think they're dying, but they're really not. So what ends up happening is that they're
Zombies?
no.
Not zombies. Okay.
So at the time of their death, travelers take their
struggling.
bodies. It's really hard to explain.
Jason's so out right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm already got my next
terrible.
thing I want to say.
Right? So travelers that have been, they're spirits that travel through space and time, and they go back in time or go into the future, and their whole mission is to save the world.
Okay.
To basically change the trajectory
So it's
of
based
life.
on a true story.
We just did it. There it is.
There it is.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So you think these people are dying, but it's actually travelers coming in.
Okay, I
and
can deal
taking
with that.
their place.
I get you.
So it's a traveler, it's a spirit in somebody else's body.
It's like Quantum Leap.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
If you remember that.
You want? Yeah, I do. You want a weird one? It was on HBO. It probably still is, and we watched it when when we were watching Game of
Do you
Thrones.
watch GOT?
Oh yeah,
Oh, dude.
yeah. I'm bummed that it's going to be done this year, but it is what it is.
I was going to ask if you read the books, but I already know the answer.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I started listening to one of the books because I would doing lawn fertilization. I'm out in the field like 8-9 hours.
sure.
Podcast. That's all. That's why I wanted to start a podcast because I love podcasts. That's
yeah,
how
I
I
do
got
too.
information. But I started listening to this book and I'm like,
It's a little slow.
nope. I'll just watch the show. But it's called The Leftovers.
I've heard of it.
Super weird. You talked about like the zombie apocalypse. I'm not even going to go into it, but if you like that kind of weird sci-fi, and sci-fi has such a range of
Yeah.
like yours is kind of sci-fi. I'm interested in that. I'm not interested in Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would be kind of like a sci-fi thing too.
Yeah,
like I like
absolutely.
Star Wars, but I feel like that's not really sci-fi. I don't know.
So let me ask you this question. I got a question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, turn the tables.
Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I don't.
Okay. Do you ever feel guilty watching We're watching Ozark right now with Jason Bateman.
I've heard of that.
Really good, really adult. And there's
Really
times
adult.
I'm like, should we watch this? I think it's good. It's interesting. Like Game of Thrones is like even beyond that, as you know.
Yeah.
Like as far as the sex and the nudity and the violence, you're like, I think I need to pray.
I mean, no, because I think that's what happened. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah.
I mean, are you saying you need to pray because you watched it on a screen or
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Yeah. I feel guilty like I watched like someone pop someone else's head and they showed his head exploding.
Yeah, that's
That was a thing.
it's pretty gross.
It was really
Wow.
gross.
There's times where I'm even wanting to cover my eyes because
Yeah,
I'm like,
dude.
I know what's going
I
to
know.
happen. It's
I'm
going to be
with you.
disgusting. Or are you going to watch it?
Probably not.
What
The
about
Red Wedding.
Oh, which
I
is
mean,
based
my
on
wife was crying.
It was based on a historic event, which is I know which my wife is going crazy because it was a French thing.
Okay,
She's a Francophile.
that was terrible.
But I knew it was going to happen, and I'm like, oh,
'cause you read the
suckers,
books?
You don't even know.
Okay.
This is when it's going to happen, and the internet's going to explode tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I absolutely, the nudity and sex beside Khaleesi, wow. But she, wow.
She's like 18, dude.
No, she's not.
Wow.
She's not. But that show it takes a lot to it because I had a really troubled childhood, so I'm pretty
really?
beat up a little bit.
Okay.
But it takes a lot to really affect me.
Yeah.
That show
Oh, I know, dude.
right
Oh,
to
I
the
know,
heart. Because I mean, I
know.
think it's non-traditional because he'll just kill somebody that's a main star
Yeah.
and have not even lose sleep over it.
Yeah, George R.R. Martin.
Yeah.
He's a terrible man.
Right, he is, but it's so good in a way because you're like, no one's safe. You're like this the whole time watching. You're like,
all right. So I know we're on this tangent here, but
right.
Ice Dragon. I called it.
Did
Ice
you?
Dragon. Totally did. Ask my wife. And it was so like, you're so involved. You're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I mean, you really
Yeah,
care.
you
You're so
do.
sucked in.
It's not like
Amazing.
it's not just like you cannot just sit down and not pay attention.
But you should probably not have your children in the house or maybe even in the neighborhood while you watch it.
Right.
Super adult.
Yeah. We have a couple from church that we watch it together with. Yeah.
Some of the little finger scenes were probably a little interesting.
Yeah. No, well, that's the thing, and this actually bounces back to religion. These people are so passionate about Jesus Christ, and I think they're drawn to us because we are too, but we still like, we live. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll swear, and I'm like, I mean, you may have a different opinion on it, but I think it's not like we're doing anything illegal, or, I mean, you talk about the porn. I mean, yeah, we make mistakes, and I want to watch a good program. So there's some nudity in it. Big freaking deal. I'm not picking up a hooker. You know what I mean? Well,
no, I get you.
You mean like the sin is a sin? You know what I mean? I don't know. I like that Christianity, and where it's like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I love God, but yeah, I still say the F word every once in a while.
So that leads me to an interesting thought is this, which we'd probably have to tackle on a different podcast. But as believers, should we look exactly the same as everyone else, or should we be different?
We should be different.
But in what way? If we watch the same shows, listen to the same music, eat the same food, go to the same places, act the same way, but we don't ever murder, rape, or we try not to lie, is that the extent of how we're supposed to look different than the rest of the world? And I am right there with you. I mean, I watch the same shows and all this. I do all the same stuff everyone else does. I just have this label around my neck that says I'm a Christian. I mean, not literally, but
yeah, I think I'm able to connect more with people, especially this Young Lives thing is interesting. It's tough to get teenagers in, especially they have a little baby.
Yeah.
And right now it hasn't happened yet, but the plan is to try to get these dads in.
Okay.
Because I mean, we all know the home with one parent is tough, and it's not always. Yeah. I mean, I've been divorced. You know what I mean? So I know my son. I baby him more. He's going to be 22 and the day after Christmas.
Okay.
I baby him more than my other kids because his mom and I used to fight like crazy when we got divorced, and over the time I stopped doing it, and she continued. But damn it, I lost my train of thought.
Where are you going with that?
I don't know. What was I talking about?
Loving your son a little bit more.
Yeah, but before that.
Being different.
Yeah.
So trying to connect with those people that they look at the people in the church like hypocrites, all that stuff. Yeah. Those people are not connecting with nobody. They're just going to church and they're going home. I'm trying to connect with people like, oh, that dude's cool. Like, he's got tattoos, and I had a huge beard before UPS, and he's like, it's cool. It's not that I'm trying to make Christianity cool, but like, he loves God, and I can connect with that guy. Relatability. So we're trying to bring these teen dads in, and so we can sit down. It's like, it's okay. Like, you had a kid. I did too. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Here's Jesus. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And I think that's great. And I think that is a great way we can be different. But I also have this very fundamentalist background upbringing, which haunts me still. And I've had to deconstruct a lot of that. And so sometimes I'm like, am I hearing echoes still of like this old guilt? Because there used to be so much sin management when I grew up.
That's got to be tough.
That was what being a Christian was, you got to stop sinning.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to reconcile with that.
How many CDs did you burn in your day?
Or
cassette tapes?
I grew up in it, so
8 tracks.
I didn't. You're hilarious.
I stopped him.
He's hilarious.
I stopped him writing his tracks.
I literally just get it after. Yes, the 8 tracks. I was just a little bit after the 8 track. I didn't burn any because I grew up Christian. I didn't even have that stuff to begin with, yo.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
I didn't. I really didn't. Yeah. I grew up listening to Amy Grant and the Imperials. Not lying. We weren't allowed to listen to secular music.
I hear you there.
Now I love the heck out of it.
Yeah. What kind of music do you like?
U2, alt rock, Patrol, Blue October.
Oh, do you know who Blue October is?
No. Been to a few concerts, met him.
Interesting. I have a buddy not a buddy. He's he works with me at lawn fertilization. He loves them too. And I'm like, that's a rock band. Like,
yeah, darn right they are.
Huh. Have you ever heard of Pop Evil?
Yes.
I love them.
And is that heavier?
Yeah. They do have some ballads in there, but it's like, I mean, I would equate it to like Motley Crue.
Have you go to Flushing to see them?
I went to Flint, the machine shop.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm actually seeing him on the 29th at 20 Monroe too. So
Blue October's actually been to the machine shop over there.
have you ever been to the machine shop?
No, we go to the intersection a few times.
The machine shop is in the ghetto, but it's amazing. It's clean inside, and it's not that old, and it's just they run a good club. It's like 500 people.
And you're a rocker then? You like the metal?
No, not the heavy metal. Like
Okay.
this is way over Ben's head probably, but Five Finger Death Punch.
Sure, yeah.
Too hard. Like
that's real hard.
That's real hard.
I would say.
Yeah, no. I like I grew up with Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue.
What I would call hard rock, but not metal.
No, that's not metal. But Pop Evil's not metal either. It's just rock and roll. It's just it's like a rock and roll band.
Okay.
But that's funny.
Yeah.
I try to keep up with the new music because I like it. Everyone's like, oh.
What do you like in the new music?
Well, Pop Evil is relatively new.
Okay.
Yeah, I listened to if you have satellite, it's called Octane. So
well, you have satellite on the Audi. We just got it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love satellite. By the way, I'll never go back to terrestrial radio.
I still use an iPod.
Wow.
What?
No way.
She just thinks that's so funny. But
you want to hear something crazy? So UPS. I was riding with somebody yesterday. This woman, same age as me, does not own a cell phone. Does not get on the computer.
That's crazy.
She plays solitaire. That's it.
No way.
She's like, you had the same reaction like everyone else does. You're taken aback by it.
It's so
you
rare.
just like, how do you get hold of your kids? You're like, well, UPS just sends a message to my computer, my little scanner, and then I go to someplace, a business that has a phone, and I call. Huh. And she's like, I go, what happens if you go in the ditch? Because it's an inherent to happen in UPS truck. She goes, I just knock on the house and ask to use the phone. Isn't that's
a different world.
It's strange, but after the initial shock, I was like, I really like you.
That's how I grew up. Of course,
yeah, well, of course, that's how I grew up too.
You're not that much younger.
No, I had a cell phone at like 20.
Yeah.
Oh, pause. How old do you think I am?
How old are you? And you're 41?
42.
I'm guessing a little younger than him. I'm going to say 38.
Wow. 34.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, resume.
Just a baby.
He's a baby.
Yeah. It's tough to guess when you're in their 30s like that.
Yeah, that is, you're right. Because 40s, a lot of people when I'm Ubering, they're like, oh, you have a 22-year-old? I'm like, yeah, but if you really looked at me, look at my little crow's lines here, like you can kind of see.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, you can see the age in the face.
If I didn't have the beard's a big giveaway because it's very gray, and I'm only into the beard world for about 4 months now, so it's new.
Are you growing it long?
No, I work for Chase.
They'll never. Yeah. See, I do lawn fertilization. So I was gonna say you can grow the yeardley. Do you know what the yeardley is?
No.
You grow one full year without trimming. I have some pictures. It's crazy.
My wife would like that.
It was like, but once I was done with that, I got it trimmed nice. Like the sides were short, but it was like nice and long and full and all. That's what she said. I think we'll end on that. I had to get that in there. No, David, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel like we have tons more we could talk about. So I hope this gets you excited about starting your podcast back up again.
It does.
And,
I enjoy it.
And if you need equipment advice or whatever, like if you want to do it it's super easy to do it from home. I mean,
that's what we're going to end up doing it.
It's more flexible when you got it at your home.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's tough to get some quiet time if you got a lot of action going. Like I have to tell my kids, like I told them when my wife when I come home, like I should have probably actually looked too. I don't know. She didn't say she was coming home, but I don't want her to bust in because you know what I mean? Because you're like, it's okay, but we try to be as professional as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
no, I very much liked being on the show tonight. That was great.
Yeah, if you could listen to our podcast and if you like it, share it because we are slowly growing.
Oh, it's so tough, man.
With the rideshare one, we're in like 20 groups on Facebook. Because you got the Grand Rapids group, Detroit, LA, Chicago, blah 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 blah.
Wow!
And so we just share the shit
live
out of
stream.
it
Yeah.
in the live stream, and we've picked people up all over Australia.
Dude.
Yeah, I know, but we have a place to put it. This one is like that's why we, I was talking to you how we need to decide where we're going with this.
Well, I don't want to brag, but we may at one time with an open letter, my podcast, we might have even had 12 listeners. I'm just going to tell you.
Well, we got more than that.
We don't know.
Yeah.
It was small, but
Okay.
I didn't even listen to my own podcast, I'll tell you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did just to pull clips. Like we have a little intro that we put funny stuff on that him and I do. Like we're like, oh my gosh, that was so hilarious.
Yeah.
But I only listened to it. But you should listen to it because you're going to be like, oh, that's a crutch word. I need to nip that. And most of my crutch words I have, other than you're never going to nip that. I mean,
not entirely.
No.
You know what else you notice when you listen to your own podcast?
How sexy you sound.
That and how long you're going, and we should probably wrap it up.
That was a hint.
There it is.
Shut up.
There it is.
You're not my boss. I know we got another one to record tonight, but
all right, man.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.